Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. Happy Sunday to you and your family. And I just really, truly hope that you are staying blessed and fortunate in your life. And obviously, thank you so much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate you and everything you do for me. If that makes any sense at all, I hope you understand that I am genuinely appreciative of the continued support. So thank you. What we're going to do, of course, is look at Bitcoin once more and obviously try to understand what's going on. We got kind of a bit of a pump here today, or a little bit of an increase, so to speak. We want to see what that means for us and hopefully get us kind of prepare for the work week. Because the work week is obviously when Bitcoin decides it wants to make some significant moves, and we want to hope that it's not to the downside. We'll look at different options and see what's going on. That being said, I'm not a financial advisor. Really just hope you can learn something here today. I've been trading for a very long time, and I have a trading community, signal group, as well as an academy that I teach you how to become a better trader. So be sure to check that out in your own time. CryptoCache.tech is the site, link in the description below. That said, let's go ahead and take a look here at Bitcoin. Now, big picture, we know what's going on. We've covered this before. So if you're new to the channel, we can kind of go ahead and just do a quick little recap here, because on the monthly, we have a simple moving average of 20 that we are underneath, which is important to understand. That is absolutely something we want to try to get back up above. Notoriously, in its history, Bitcoin has dropped below this one time. It was back in 2017, actually probably prior to that, but that was a little less relevant. This one here, the recent one, of course, if we look back here, where the price action came below the 20-day set moving average, and it stayed there for about 6 months. So hypothetically, in this same school of thought there, if we just say hypothetically, we have the same performance where the price wicks down to the 50-day set moving average, we should experience a lower price point moving forward, of course, somewhere in the range of 20 to 24,000. But more importantly, that should only continue for another couple months. I know only is a tough situation, tough pill to swallow right now, because it's difficult. But I mean, hey, what goes up must inevitably come down. All right, so we just gotta kind of get to terms with that. The likelihood of the price staying where it's at or going lower is equally as high as the price coming back up. In fact, it's probably a lot greater for the price action, at least the likelihood of the price action coming down, to go down. All right. Now, hard to say specifically when that will happen, but we have had some sideways action at 30,000 for the moment, and it does seem like it wants to hold. But that is, of course, I wouldn't say 100%, right? So taking a look at the weekly, though, we're underneath both moving averages, but we're above the 200, and the 200 is trending right around 22,000 looks like. So 22,000, generally speaking, we're looking at a position where Bitcoin does need to, and will probably likely continue lower before it can come back up. What I mean by that is just that when the price action comes down this low, oftentimes there is a recovery, but it hasn't found its bottom yet, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. So with it not finding its bottom just yet, we need to understand that the moving averages, on average, are going to be those nice key level supports, because there's not a tremendous amount of support underneath 30,000, and we're kind of just hanging out there. This is like almost uncharted territory for Bitcoin for the moment. So we got to recognize that, again, downside is more likely than an upside, even though we may see a little bit of a relief rally perhaps in the next couple weeks. It's hard to specifically say, but here's one thing we want to touch on. We got this hidden bearish divergence I mentioned before, with the indicators essentially, and basically the oscillators, what have you, it's moving up, right? It's basically making higher highs. We're still making lower highs at this point. Today, of course, is up for debate. Candlestick hasn't closed yet, but hypothetically we close right where we're at or lower, we will continue this hidden bearish divergence. All right, so just keep in mind that sometimes look at the RSI, it's never a guarantee when the RSI, just say for example, is up over 30. That is giving us a false sense of confidence at this point that it will recover, and it may not. Again, just something to think about and to be aware of, and to try not to go all in at this point, because we could very well see a much lower price point. Most signs in the macro point down right now. All right. So again, just a little reiteration there, and then just kind of touch on some simple stuff here. We're underneath the 20-day moving average, of course, and until we get back up above that, we don't really have any confirmation at all that we're potentially going to increase. This should work as a resistance level as it continues lower. So we're going to see here soon how the 20 responds to the price action. But once again, we're above 30 and under 50 on the RSI. It basically just implies we're in this bearish type of sentiment, which we've had since April, as far as the overall sense of this current situation. We had a lot of ups and downs between January and April, but for the most part, ever since April, what was it? The highest point was March 28th, rather, and we've been continuing down lower ever since. Obviously, this downtrend started back in November, but generally speaking, we had some kind of relief, in the months of January, February, and March. And ever since March 28th, it's really just been consistently downgrading itself. And that has a lot to do with the world population. Sorry, not the population, but the world and what's going on in the general population, in the sense that we got the wars, we got inflation, we've got a lot of different things. UST depegging recently. A lot of concerning stuff is happening right now, and folks are they're selling their Bitcoin, so to speak, and hoping for a lower price point. And generally speaking, I don't blame them. It makes perfect sense. The secondary market here essentially is very hypothetical, and some people don't like to make long-term investments on that. Either way, I do hope you can continue dollar cost average. That's besides the point. Just remember not to go all in just yet, because we haven't hit the bottom. But just to go ahead and touch on the 4-hour, kind of start wrapping up here. Generally speaking, on the 4-hour time frame, what you want to be is above both moving averages. While we have that right now, we've seen this constant waver up above and below. So until there's a definitive direction that's given or chosen, so to speak, we're going to probably continue to trend sideways for the moment. We are effectively range bound between 27 and 32,000. I know that's a pretty wide range. Honestly, if you were to kind of narrow it down, you can see the lowest point here recently is 28.6, and then the highest point, once again, is about 31.3. So 28.6 to 31.3 would be the range that we are in, and we've been in that range ever since May 13th. So it's been about 10 days as a rough estimate. So again, just something to be aware of. Range bound for 10 days. There's likely going to be a breakout. We could see a breakout to the upside. There is that potential, of course, to keep that in mind, just based on the simple fact that we haven't seen one in a while. But if history repeats itself, which it typically does, you can see that Bitcoin has a tendency of going sideways for some time and then making a significant correction. So we could see a little bit more sideways action, maybe for another week or so, but there's a strong chance we're going to see a definitive push, likely more so to the downside based on the macro, but also potential relief rally up to about 37.5. Okay, so again, 37.5 I would say is a better case scenario. That'd be best case. If we break through that, we can have another conversation about where we might continue. But I do feel as if we were to have a relief rally, it'll get stunted out somewhere in the range of 32 to 37.5. It just seems like we're going to have a lot of resistance there. Again, we'll bridge that gap when we get there, but better case scenario, we start trending back towards 37.5. Worst case, we come all the way down as low as this next Fibonacci retracement level, about 23,000. So generally speaking, at this point, that is a strong likelihood. I think it's more likely to see the price come down, but once again, we might see an increase first, perhaps even what is commonly referred to as a dead cat, and then the price comes back down after that. So just recommend you do not get fully invested and try to go crazy with a bunch of long positions just because we see a little bit of a green candle on the weekend. Bitcoin is notorious for selling off on Mondays when we have a green weekend. Even though it's not a very strong weekend, right? It's like maybe only about a 2% increase. It's still enough to take profits for the whales because it's money. It's food on the table, so to speak, right? And they're going to eat all the time. Mondays are their hungry days, and so are Fridays. So just be mindful of that. That said, it could happen as early as 5 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday, which is today. And what I mean by that is the Eastern Hemisphere essentially is trading because they're ahead of us, and they have the opportunity to effectively be able to change the market conditions. So we could very well see that tonight. Another thing to pay attention to is NASDAQ and, of course, just say the general S&P 500. Traditional markets, what are those doing? Are those averaging up or down? That really is a strong catalyst a lot, too, that we need to pay attention to. It's, again, closed on the weekends. We don't have any real insight. We kind of had almost a break even on Friday, so it wasn't terrible, but you can see it wick down even further. So generally speaking, if we see the price of these stocks going down, we can expect cryptocurrency to follow suit. It's generally a correlation there. So something to be aware of. All right, anyways, I think I went off the rails here today. I apologize. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. Really just looking out for your best interest. I want you to make sound and informed decisions. And to my current community members, we've had some really good signals recently, but I want to make sure that we have a definitive direction here soon before we take the next take the next plunge, so to speak, right? And there's not a lot of confirmation just yet until this hidden bearish divergence is satisfied. So I would love to, get more stuff going, but we got to wait for the market to kind of choose a side right now. It does feel like it wants to go down, though. That's the general feeling that I'm getting here. Either way, be careful, be cautious. Thank you so much for joining me here. We look forward to seeing the next video. If you're not currently a community member, CryptoCache.tech is a site. I do offer discounts for military and third world countries. Message me if you have any questions. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you soon. Take care.